अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्यापि यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Namasmarana for a few minutes. Ramanama Kirtanam Ramanama Kirtanam Paramabhagyadayakam Paramabhagyadayakam Ramanama Kirtanam Paramabhagyadayakam Hanumanama Kirtanam Hanumanama Kirtanam Abhayahastadayakam Abhayahastadayakam Hanumanama Kirtanam Abhayahastadayakam Vishnunama Kirtanam Vishnunama Kirtanam Lakshmi Praptidayakam Lakshmi Praptidayakam Vishnunama Kirtanam Lakshmi Praptidayakam Krishna Nama Kirtanam Krishna Nama Kirtanam Jnanamuktidayakam Jnanamuktidayakam Krishna Nama Kirtanam Jnanamuktidayakam Shivanama Kirtanam Shivanama Kirtanam Kamadosha Nashakam Kamadosha Nashakam Shivanama Kirtanam Kamadosha Nashakam Harinama Kirtanam Harinama Kirtanam Mama Moha Nashakam Mama Moha Nashakam Harinama Kirtanam Mama Moha Nashakam Ramanama Kirtanam Paramabhagyadayakam Hanumanama Kirtanam Abhayahastadayakam Vishnunama Kirtanam Lakshmi Praptidayakam Krishna Nama Kirtanam Jnanamuktidayakam Shivanama Kirtanam Kamadosha Nashakam Harinama Kirtanam Mama Moha Nashakam Ramanama Kirtanam Paramabhagyadayakam. 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 Hari Om. We have been seeing the topic Yoga of Meditation. Yoga means to elevate ourselves, this individual jiva which is there, this ego, this individual consciousness which we have, that I am this separate body, I am having this mind, I am having this intellect, this separate entity. When we elevate it and merge into that higher self, then that is called as yoga. Yoga means union. Union means to merge. Yoga also means the path. Yoga means the destination, which is the merger, the union, and also the path which makes this happen. That also is called as yoga. Sometimes the doctor or an engineer who is still studying, we call him an engineer or a doctor. Like that, a yoga sthiti is also indicated by a yogi. A yogi is one who has accomplished, or a one who is trying to accomplish. Therefore, all these paths, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, so many paths which are there, are the paths which take that individual and make him merge into that infinite consciousness, that union. Why that is required for us? Maybe that is yoga, but what is it to do with me? If I ask that question, the answer is simply indicated in the Shastra. We are all wanting and trying to gain happiness. That kind of happiness, that kind of joy, which is not dependent on anything. At the same time, it does not perish. At the same time, when it is there, when it is being enjoyed, that kind of bliss and happiness, when it is a state of that mind, there is no sense of decrease in the levels of energies. When we are having various joys and pleasures, what happens is our energy level goes down. Certain pleasures are taxing. Sometimes when we go to a vacation to free ourselves from stress, that vacation itself becomes stressful. Many times it happens because certain pleasures have this nature, this tendency to create a lack of a sense of well-being. It is de-energizing. So every pleasure, every excitement which we experience at a certain level, they cause certain amount of dissipation in the vitality, in the energy levels. These type of pleasures and joys not only de-energize us, but also create certain consequences. When we do certain actions, because of these pleasures, they create reactions in this universe, which are called as karma phalas. When we do it, then there is something else is also resulting from that action. So we have to experience the results of those actions also. That may be good, nice, sometimes very tough to digest. So all these limitations are there in the happiness which we enjoy generally. But that happiness which never Hari Om. We have seen some of the ways in which our mind functions and how we are actually using this mind even to experience the pleasures which we are experiencing. This mind is needed. Without this mind, we will not be able to experience whatever happiness we are experiencing. But because of the specific way in which we use this mind, sometimes we get those things which we do not like. For example, the sorrows, the frustrations, the disappointments, all these kind of feelings also arise in this mind, but it is because of the wrong usage of this mind. It is a powerful instrument, it is a very subtle instrument, and it does not have any wear and tear, and it is made by none other than God Himself. So it must be powerful. When it is so powerful, then why we are not able to tap that power? It is because of misunderstanding about our own mind, our own self. When it is misunderstanding is there, I press the wrong buttons. Like a device which is bought in the market, not knowing how it functions, and if we press the wrong buttons, it will, instead of making a nice, giving a nice music and nice things, it will create noise and other things which we do not like, or not interested and not desired. In the same way, this mind, when the wrong buttons are pressed, it will also make noise. This noise is nothing but the pain and the disturbances we experience on a daily basis. We have also seen these functions such as perception, the registration, the way our mind stores various things. It sees, when the mind is connected to this world, it sees various things, it experiences. Whatever it experiences, it records like a audio video recorder. Whatever is happening outside in the world and the mind gets connected to it, it records. And not only records, but it also records with a background music, such as our emotions, our complaints, our frustrations. So whatever we are seeing, this scene, this experience is also associated with emotions and then stored. When this is emotionally charged, whatever we are seeing, and experiences are emotionally charged, then what happens is we try to repeat it or we try to avoid that experience. When we try to avoid that experience, then also it gets strengthened. When we try to repeat it, then also it gets strengthened. Very interesting. We avoid it, dislike it, then also it gets strengthened. If we like it, we enjoy it, then also it gets strengthened. So if we observe our own experiences, those we hate, that we remember well. Those we like intensely, that also we remember well. Because both these experiences are emotionally charged. So these things, when they are repeated, because those things which we dislike, those get repeated again and again. Those we like, they also get repeated again and again in our mind. These things which get repeated again and again form as tendencies. Tendency means a groove in which these happen and again, called as vasana. A groove which is formed because of emotionally charged likes, emotionally charged dislikes. It is not a simple memory. It is a memory with an emotional charge, a compelling force, which makes us repeat again and again. So these tendencies are formed because of various experiences. We have seen that. We have also seen a way, a technique, a simple tool by which these tendencies which are formed can be changed. That is, when we are responding in the world, we instantaneously, unconsciously react without any thinking, without any gap, without any pausing. There is no pause in our reactions to various things in the world. When there is no gap, when there is no pause, what happens is the reaction which is arising is expressed as action. When it is expressed as action, for example, there is anger. When we are angry, immediately we may shout. That shouting is an action. Anger is that reaction which arose because of what happened outside. So before shouting and after anger, if there is a gap, for example, if there is a space, if there is a pause, then what can happen is my response, which is being expressed as an action, can be modified. This is the only way we can change ourselves. If we want to experience different things in our life, then we have to bring in a change in our responses. Most of us think, why the same things are happening to me? It is because my actions and reactions into this world are almost the same all the time. So expecting doing the same things and expecting something else is one of the illusions of our mind. That expectation causes more suffering, nothing else. Because we are the same and we expect everything to change outside. It will not happen. That which we experience is inevitably tied up with how we respond to the world, how we take this world, how we perceive, how we connect, how we relate. All this is central to our experiences which we undergo in our life. So experience is not only what is happening, it also constitutes how I am responding. Both combined together form our experiences. So if we can create this gap and then change our response, then the experience completely changes. Like we have this, the license exam. When we are writing this driving exam for the driving our cars, there is one question. What is the distance you have to maintain between your car which is going in the front and which is at the back in which we are driving? What is the distance we have to maintain? The simple formula they give is, if you are driving at 60 miles an hour, 6 car distance, 50 miles an hour, 5 car distance, 10 miles an hour, 1 car distance. So if we are closer than what is recommended, the chances that we will hit the car when the car which is running in front of us applies a brake is very higher, because the reaction time is very less. If the reaction time is less and we are driving very fast and we are tailgating, then the chances that we will be bumping into this car is very, very high, very, very probable. In the same way, if our mind is reacting very, very fast with everything that is happening in the world, then we bumping into each other is very high, meaning arguments, getting frustrated, attacking each other, self-criticism, criticizing others. All this will happen when our reaction time is very less, meaning the time we give ourselves to respond is very less. If it is very less, we will bump into others. If you give more time and introduce some shastra, some knowledge of the scriptures, like somebody said this, that you have to wait 1 minute or 2 minutes before you speak. If you get angry, then you have to wait before you have to speak. Then how can I do that? Somebody suggested you count from 1 to 10. Then that anger will go down. That was the suggestion. And somebody got very angry and he counted from 1 to 10. When he was counting from 1 to 10, his anger was increasing with time. So instead of shouting, he slapped actually. It is because this technique works when there is an introduction of a calmness, a quietude, which will counter this anger. Otherwise, how will the technique work? Like that, when the gap is created, some Shastra knowledge should come in the between. In that pause, in that wait, in that time, 1 or 2 minutes, whatever it is called, this Shastra knowledge which will process this anger, which will quieten this anger, which will dissolve this anger, that type of knowledge should be introduced. Otherwise, that will only increase. So this gap has to be created for introduction of a proper thought which is based on the Shastra. We have seen the yoga. One more thing before we go into this, what actually means this meditation. When we are introducing this thought in between this gap, what happens is a significant thing happens. A new thought is introduced into the mind from the memory, of course. Then what happens is, based on this thought, my response is modified. When my response is modified, this new thought plus this modified response creates a new impression in the mind. Very important. It creates a new layer in the mind, a new groove in the mind, a new vasana in the mind. When it creates a new tendency, what happens is, this tendency, when it is repeated again and again, that is the practice, that is the sadhana. When you repeat this again and again, what happens is that modified response becomes a tendency. After a long period of practice, after long periods of repetition of this gap and a modified response, what happens is this tendency becomes more natural than what was before. So when that tendency becomes modified, response becomes a natural tendency. This is called as positive vasana. The earlier one was a negative vasana, which was giving me trouble, giving me tough time. This one is a positive vasana, which will give positive results. When expressed as an action, it will give positive results. All good things happen to us. So, because of this mind's ability to store whatever is seen, whatever is thought, whatever is acted out, we are using that same tendency for our own benefit. Right now, we are using it for the wrong ones, which is harming us. This same tendency, this same ability, when it is used for the right purpose, for the right response, the same ability will give us so many benefits. It gives us so much of auspiciousness, so much of beneficence in our life. So, it is not the mind which has the problem, it's the way we are relating and using the mind that is the problem. So, that is one way of relating to this world. Now, this meditation, yoga we have seen. Meditation is a very popular word. Nowadays, wherever you go, you see this meditation, meditation, meditation. People have an idea of what meditation is. Nowadays, even the airports have a meditation room. I have seen this in the newspaper, meditation room in the airport, which is good. A yoga room, meditation room in the airport, because people are so stressed, so much tired, they will sit there and probably meditate and get some peace. Like that, this has become a very popular term because of the stressful and tiring, mentally worrying and anxiety filled situations which are there in nowadays modern life. This has become extremely popular. Anything gets popular only if it has demand. The demand is there only because people are not able to control their own negativity and own mind, which is unable to be controlled. Therefore, it is creating so much of frustration, and that frustration is nothing but stress. We use the word stress, but stress is nothing but all these emotions, all these negative emotions, this fear, this anxiety. When they are there, that itself is stress, that itself is suffering. We think because of anger we suffer. Actually, anger itself is suffering. When that emotion is there in the mind, that itself is the suffering. So we all are experiencing this. Therefore, we need this. We are all demanding this technique of meditation. There might be many techniques, many ways in which this meditation is performed, meditation is applied in our life. We will see the broad definition of meditation, which is indicated in the Shastra. It is the focusing of mind or intellect in such a manner so as to accomplish the cleansing of all these impurities and also dissolving the ego which is attached to these impurities and recognizing this higher self, accomplishing the cleansing of impurities and attaining this higher self. How? By focusing this mind in a special manner. This is called as meditation. What else? Very simple. This is all the meditation is. How you perform, there might be different manners. Where you focus, where, in which point in your body you focus, or you focus somewhere else. Everything, that focus, where it is focused, may be a matter of analysis, but the focusing in a special manner is the meditation. Right now, we are meditating on the world of objects. That also is meditation. We are totally absorbed and involved in various things. But that is not for a higher self. The focus is there. The mind's focus and attention is there. But on a wrong thing. We may use the word meditation, but it is not actually. Strictly speaking, the meditation means it has to, the focus has to lift us. It has to make us accomplish this higher joy and higher self, attaining this higher self. So, not only that, it is also the focus in a special manner so that we recognize this inner presence of God. Right now, our focus and attention is on this world of objects, this sense world. Taking that mind away from this world of sense objects and placing it on that inner spirit, inner presence, inner essence, that is called as meditation. Whatever that accomplishes this process can be called as meditation. That also is meditation. Broadly classified as closed eye meditation, open eye meditation. Oh, I have never heard of open eye meditation. I have always known about closed eye meditation. Yes, of course, closed eye meditation is very popular because our mind is entirely focused outside. When we withdraw that mind from these worldly objects, that itself creates certain amount of dwelling and swelling of energy inside. That gives certain amount of peace. So it is very easy and likable for many. But this one, closed eye meditation, is compartmentalized. We have to sit in one place. We have to allocate time and then sit there and then do focus on the various points, various positions in the body, various angles we have to do it, and various postures we have to maintain, which is good, wonderful. But it also disconnects with our acting personality. When we are occupied in doing various things, we have to stop that and take out the time and meditate. For majority of us, we have to withdraw from these actions and sit in one place. That itself is a very big thing. Withdrawing and taking time and focusing mind on a certain point takes up, it is a big challenge for many of us. So even though it is wonderful, it is compartmentalized, meaning you have to allocate time separately, which is good if we can do it. Another one is disadvantage. It is the disadvantages which I am mentioning are not in the technique. It is in us, because we are not able to take time out for ourselves. This becomes little ineffective for most of us. Once we sit there, that's when we know how much our mind is a trouble. The moment we sit there, it goes everywhere. Like one Mahatma said, if you want to know what is your mind, then he said, try this. Don't think about monkey and sit. Only monkey will come into the mind. That is how the mind works. So whatever suggestion we give, it behaves in the opposite manner. So there are so many distractions. The moment we sit for meditating, more and more distractions erupt from the mind. So many. It goes here, it goes there, and whatever, sometimes all the old memories come up. Sometimes if there are no old memories, I become very forgetful of the things. Then I start thinking about the future, what will happen. That also becomes a distraction. Either past worries or future anxieties. That is what Gurudev used to say. Mind does not remain in the present, it always goes into the future or into the past. Going into the past for understanding learning is different from worrying about the past. Planning about the future and accomplishing is different from having anxiety about the future. Both are very different. The worry is an emotionally charged thinking about the past. Anxiety is the same thing about the future. There are emotions which are negative, therefore the past and future, which is said here, pointed out here, is a problem. The mind runs in those two directions with a negative emotion, wrong emotion associated with it. Always we have to remember in the Shastra, when something is said, in what way it is said, what type of emotions are associated with it. That also we have to take into consideration. Otherwise we will get confused. Do you mean to say that I should not plan for my future? That is not said at all. It is the anxiety about the future that is pointed out, which is not necessary. You can plan something and be in the present and execute, but we take it in another manner. Therefore, we have to understand that these distractions which are caused inside the mind are about these anxieties and worries. So both of them are there the moment I sit down for meditating on one point. So this closed eye meditation is difficult for many of us. We have to consistently, persistently sit there and constantly do it. Then we may have some gain over our own mind, control over mind. But do we have such patience? We have to decide. It is we only should decide. We can read various things, we can study various things, understand various things, but we have to know our own personality, our own style of living. Based on that, we have to choose the appropriate technique which is indicated in the Shastra. In the open eye meditation, if I may use that word, what happens is, I am involved in the world. I am acting in the world. I take up every activity, but with a difference. What is the difference? I act in the world without any expectation of happiness from the result of the action. This is very important. Otherwise, there is confusion here also. Do you mean to say that I should not expect anything from anyone? Why not? If somebody is working under me, that subordinates are working, I am the boss. If I don't expect them to work, the company will go bankrupt. That is not which is said. Meaning, when I do not expect means, I don't expect happiness from that. When I do something, the result will happen by its own consequence. When I do something, result is bound to happen. But my happiness is not tied up with that result. I do not insist on a specific result that will happen. If this happens, then only I will be happy. If I do not say that, and I just be in the present and enjoy the action instead of waiting for the result, then what happens is that action becomes a meditation. That action becomes a meditation. Why? Because my mind is focused in the activity. It is focused. Gurudev says, when you are involved, you evolve. Meaning, our entire mind's focus, total focus of the mind is in the activity. When it is focused that way, what happens is, this mind does not move into the future or into the past. This ego, which is attached to this anxiety and the worry, very important. The ego, which is attached to anxiety and the worry, it is the favorites of ego. Like we say, no, I have this favorite, I have this favorite program, I have this favorite person. Like that, the ego has these favorites: anxiety about the future and worry about the past. Its favorite pastimes. That is how it likes to spend its time. So when the mind is entirely focused on the present moment into the activity, this ego gets diluted. The strength of this ego gets weakened. Therefore, when we involve, we evolve, because evolution means dilution of this ego, the dissipation of this egoistic energy. So when the ego is dissolved, the purpose of meditation is achieved. The cleansing of the mind is achieved. When I focus on the present moment, then the dilution and impurities of the mind is happening. Dilution of ego is happening. The impurities of the mind are also going. Impurities are nothing but these worries and anxieties. They are also getting cleansed. So by definition, that is a meditation. That also is a meditation. Most of us fail to understand this and think that sitting in one place with cross-legged and focusing on something is the only way to meditation. That also is meditation. That is mostly actually concentration. That also accomplishes a cleansing of the mind. But this, in which we are 99% involved, that we put it aside. 99% of our waking state, we are involved in this only activity, doing that, taking up that responsibility, family responsibilities, professional responsibilities. All these are always there. Forgetting, keeping this aside, I want to create a time for meditation. For most of us, it is very difficult. What we can do is, at a practical level, combine both. Whenever we find time for sitting, we can do it. When we are acting in the world, we can do this. This action personality which is there is creating the distractions, is creating the problems. So when I sit, all these distractions are coming from where? From this acting personality, which are not done properly, in the proper manner. So the mind which I sit creates so many disturbances. From where they are arising? They are all the unprocessed, unattended reactions which are there in this acting personality. Whole day I act and create all these disturbances, and then I sit there. All those things will come. Unprocessed, unattended, improper actions. When I act, the act dissolves there. It will not create any disturbance if that action was perfect. When Gurudev tears a paper, he is totally involved. The act is very simple. It is tearing a paper, nothing what he is doing. But when he is totally there, there is a perfection in the action. There is no traces that are left after that action. The totality of our presence in the action makes us evolve and brings a charm into the action. When he moves, When he walks, people are blown away by his way of expressing expressions in this world. The charisma, all that comes only because of perfection in the action. Total presence in the moment. When it is there, there are no dissipations of energy. When there are no dissipation of energy, the action is completely done. When it is done, there are no byproducts such as anxieties and worries. So that also is a meditation. When we combine both, then it is a wonderful thing. Then we can reach that inner presence much more faster. Combine this open-eyed meditation, which is nothing but karma yoga, plus this concentration, sitting cross-legged, that is dhyana yoga. You combine both, wonderful. If you combine bhakti yoga also, devotion to God, even more wonderful. Because we are a mixed personality, which has all these types of personalities put together, if we combine all of them, then we will reach that joy and peace in a faster manner. Many of us ask, is there a shortcut? Tell me if there is any shortcut. There's a faster technique. This is the technique. You combine all of them and then the mind gets into control in a fast manner. We will see one shloka in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Sri Bhagavanuvacha Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnirna chakriyaha. He is talking about who exactly is a sannyasi. We have a different picture of a sannyasi, and who is a yogi. He says, it is not the one who escapes action. He is not a sannyasi. He is not a yogi. Niragnihi na achakriyaha, meaning the one who avoids action and does something else, because these actions are creating so much disturbances him. So he feels, that individual feels, stopping doing all these things and going somewhere. Some people ask, how can I leave this family world and go somewhere? How can I go out of this samsara? Tell me a technique. Then Shastra says there is no such technique. You need not go from any world actually. Wherever you go, this same mind will be there. So going away from here, we will create samsara wherever we are. So there is no use by going away from wherever we are. If we feel that the situation in which I am is not right for my evolution, then it is called as escapism. Wherever I am, in whatever stage in my life, whatever situation in my life, I have a way to evolve from there. If I fail to recognize it, then I think I have to leave this place, I have to go somewhere else and then do something, and then thereby I can gain evolution. One is escapism, which is born out of misunderstanding. One is inspiration. We are not talking about inspiration, we are talking about escapism. We have to know the difference between escapism and inspiration. Inspiration means whatever in the situation, that is not bothering me, that is not troubling me, I am fine with it, I am happy with it, but something more inspires me. I want to have a greater joy. I am contented, I am happy with whatever is there, but I want to know something, if there is something greater, a greater possibility, a greater joy. That is inspiration. So if there are troubles, I want to run away from it, it is escapism. A person, a villager was there. He took his buffalo for grazing outside of the village. After a while, he sat under a tree, and when he was waiting for the buffalo to eat various things, after a while what happened? He saw that the buffalo was missing. Immediately he started crying, "Where is my buffalo? Where is my buffalo?" and all that. Then the other person said, who was passing by, "What happened? Why are you crying?" He said, "My buffalo is missing. It must have gone home, my home." Then the other person said, "Then why are you crying? It has gone to the proper place." Then this person said, "Only buffalo knows the way to my home. I don't know." So like that, when I don't know about myself and where I have to go, I will depend on somebody. That somebody may point or not point. What is the guarantee that a buffalo will take him in the right manner? There is no guarantee. If it wants to go somewhere else, he is lost. In the same way, ultimately, it is us who has to understand where we are, how our mind is. Then we have to discover our own path, our own track, how to achieve that higher. One more thing we have to understand is, here it is clearly said that when we avoid action, when we are not involved in these actions, it is an escapism. He is not a yogi, he is not a sannyasi. That is what Krishna is saying. Bhagavan is saying that he is not a sannyasi. Then who is a sannyasi? The one who does actions without any expectation of the fruits in a specific manner. This is how that fruit should be. This is how it should be. When I do something, it has to happen this way. This is called as insistence on a specific result, so that my happiness, I become happy. If I insist for the sake of the good of others, that is a different thing. But for my happiness, if I insist, then it becomes a selfish action which is bound to get disappointment. That actions have to be avoided. Those actions, when are avoided, it is called as sannyasa. That himself, that individual who does this, is called as a sannyasi. A yogi, by definition, means the one who does not have these vikshepas, these distractions. So who will become a yogi? Who renounces such actions? So a sannyasi and a yogi is one and the same. The one who renounces these distractions is a yogi, is a sannyasi. That is a yogi who does not have these distractions. So a sannyasi and a yogi are one and the same, is pointed out by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So when we renounce these distractions by renouncing the expectation of a fruit for my own action in a specific manner, then there is a peace inside. That itself is a yoga sthiti, is being said here. Actions should be only for changing ourselves. Sometimes many of us, when we listen to the Shastra, when we listen to all these things which are said, we try to change others. The moment we learn something good about our Shastra, we see the bad in the world. The moment we see these good things, I think I should change this world. One person, one boy, young boy, told his mother, "I want to change this society. I don't like this society. I want to change it." Then the mother said, "First change your room. See the condition of your room. Dirty, so impure, so ugly. You change your room first, clean your room first. Then you can think about the society." Like that, when we are not knowing about ourselves, then we try to change others and the world. This change has to begin from within. When the mind changes, when the impurities are gone, when the mind becomes very still, very calm, when we recognize that inner presence which is already there inside, we feel that bliss inside. In that bliss beatitude, the world looks beautiful. If we see in our experience also, when we are in a good mood, when we are very happy, we look at everybody, everybody looks nice, everything looks fine. But when we are sad, when we are not so happy, then everything looks bad. Everybody looks not so great. We also say that this world is full of all these kind of negative people and all that. It is because we have not seen the happiness inside. The moment we touch that inner consciousness, inner presence, then at the same moment we will become very blissful. When we become blissful, entire world appears happy and blissful. Even if we recognize the negative things, the underlying positivity is also seen. The impurity which is there, all these negative emotions which are traditionally called as impurities in our mind, are actually because of the sankalpas, powerful sankalpas which are there in the mind. What is this sankalpa? Sankalpa means inner planning for a desired result by an ego guided mind. Very important. The sankalpa is inner planning that goes on. You go on doing so much planning, how to do this, how to do that, goes on and on. And that inner planning for a specific result, for a desired result, guided by whom? Guided by the ego. This is called as a sankalpa. These kind of sankalpas which we take up create all this misery for us, all this suffering for us. Ego guided inner planning that is there create all this suffering. When there is a desire, we have so many desires. The desires have come. When the desires have come, nothing happens. Now, when the desire arises, at this point of time, the ego feels this desire should be satisfied. And it creates this will. It uses its will and starts the planning for accomplishing this desire. This is called as sankalpa. Willful, with intention, planning to accomplish, fulfill this desire which is arising from my own mind. This is called as sankalpa. This thought, this vritti is called as sankalpa. These sankalpas cause so much of disturbance because most of the times we will not be able to accomplish. Many times we will not be able to accomplish. The more madly the ego holds on to this sankalpa, the more difficult it will be able to handle the reactions for its actions. If that sankalpa does not manifest, it is an egoistic sankalpa. It is not a divine will. It is not a surrender. It is not a let go. It is an ego planning and making a willful determination that this should happen. Whether the Shastra sanctions it or not, whether it is a rightful thing or not, a righteous thing or not. Because I feel it should happen, it should happen. That's all. This is called as ego guided action or ego guided sankalpa. So such things, when they are there, then it will create a disturbance when the thing which is desired does not happen. How do I deal with my mind? Questions in the end. You may note down. Who is responsible for these kind of sankalpas, and who is responsible to withdraw from this sankalpa? It is my own self. It is said in our Shastra, and also it is in our experience, that there is a lower me and there is a higher me. Both are there within me. In 6th chapter, Sri Krishna says, Bhagavan says, Uddharet Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva Hyatmana Bandhuhu Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. It is said by Bhagavan himself that this mind which we are carrying, this self, this mind, has a higher self and a lower self. A higher mind and a lower mind. Both are available. Most of us do not recognize this duality. Gurudev says 80% of the people who are there fail to recognize this duality. They think that others are only selfish, only others are negative, only others are expressing negativity, only the world has all these problems. I don't have any problem. I am the nicest person. Everybody is bad. This duality I fail to know, I fail to recognize in myself. Then Gurudev says, for such people who do not recognize their own duality, meaning there is a higher and a lower, this lower emotions, negativity, all these things are there, and there are higher emotions, higher decisions, higher thinking, that is also there. Both the things are there within me. The people who fail to recognize, for them religion is useless. Gurudev says flatly, he says religion is not for them. Nothing they will gain from this religion, from spirituality. Whatever technique they may follow, whatever technique they may listen to, if they don't recognize the negativity in themselves, any technique for that matter, any spiritual technique is utterly useless. He clearly says this. So religion is not for the people who fail to recognize the lower and higher in them. It is not. The religion by definition means gaining a control over this lower personality by a higher discipline. When we follow a higher discipline and gain the control over the lower in ourselves by recognizing it, then that is called as a religion. He also gives one example saying, if there is a squint-eyed person and he has a squint eye, and in his village there are no mirrors. So looking at other people who have squint eyes, he laughs. There are no mirrors. So he does not know that he has a squint eye. So Gurudev says our condition is also like that. We fail to see our own negativity, and we see the negativity of others very clearly, very obviously, very easily. That is why when we ask about other person, we are able to clearly tell. See, these are the negativities, these are the negativities, these are the problems in him, this is problem in him. If he does not have this problem, it is nice, but he has this problem. What can I do? This person has this problem, this person has this problem, and this person has this list of problems. I can list out also. I have that capability because my mind is focused outside. I never seek to see the lower self within me. So this type of understanding, if it is there, none of the techniques will work for me. At the same time, Gurudev also says, a guru, a scripture, or a teacher, a Mahatma can only help to give certain suggestions, certain information, and certain pointers. That is all he can give. So any lecture, any satsang, anywhere you see, they can give you certain information which points about ourselves. That much only they can do. But rest I have to take up, I have to introspect, I have to recognize, and then discipline myself. Only then I can accomplish any kind of spiritual goal. And who will do this? I alone have to do this. That is being said in this shloka. Uddharet Atmanatman. Evolve yourself, lift yourself by your own self. By higher discipline, lift this lower. Meaning, take control over this lower. Take charge of this lower. The moment by this higher discipline, this lower self, this lower ego gets into the control, it will not damage anymore. This lower is the evil. This lower is the ignorance. This negative emotions is the so-called popular ego, which is causing so much of problem to everybody. This lower self is the one which needs to be come under the influence of this higher discipline. Once you gain certain amount of control over this lower self, Bhagavan says, do not allow this gained discipline, gained control to fall away. Most of us ask this question. This question is also very common in many people. Do we have a free will, or it's all destiny? Bhagavan says in this shloka beautifully, Gurudev clearly explains, when we fall into the dominion of this lower self, we feel that this free will is lost. The moment we fall under the influence of this lower self, we feel as though this free will is lost. We feel we are helpless. We feel that nothing in this world is in my control, which is a fact, but it is not of our awareness. It is out of helplessness. That helplessness comes due to falling under the influence of this lower self. This itself is evil. If we see in many people, today we switch on the news, so much of negativity is there. So much is there. All that negativity which is there is because people are not able to have control over their own lower self. They are failing to recognize their own negativity. When they fail to recognize their negativity, they think that is only the self. That itself is what they are. When they think like that, then they will not try for gaining control and evolving. When they don't try, what happens is they express that negativity in the world in the form of actions which are detrimental to themselves and also to everyone. Gurudev says, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, to the extent this lower comes under the influence of the higher, this lower is a friend. Atma eva atmana bandhuhu. Atma eva ripuhu atmanaha. The same thing which is not under the control, which is not under my influence of higher mind, will become an enemy, ripuhu, because that kind of mind which is not having control over its own lower tendencies, lower nature, will blame God also. It will reject the divine presence. It will reject the free will. Even it takes up the free will, it will be only for the destruction of others. As a consequence, again, at one point of time, it is bound to feel that there is no free will, because it is going into the dark abyss. The more you do negativity, the more the negative results come. The more negative results, the negativity increases. The more negativity increases, the lack of free will. That is why it is said in our Shastra that when people do negative actions again and again, they are thrown into the hells where they don't have any say, because they have misutilized that free will which is used to gain control, gain influence over their own lower self. Misutilized, misdirected. Therefore, they fell into this hell. Hell is nothing but this lower and negative thing which is already within. Of course, there are hells like this, realms of existence. We are not talking about that. Yes, they are also there. But here we are talking about this inner negativity, which is also like a hell. So we go into that more deeper and deeper and feel that more helplessness and lack of free will. So when we lack that free will, then we say, God is only making all this. God is only punishing me. God is only doing this. We blame God. When we fall into that abyss, that lower self which is already there in the human being, then I blame God. I fail to recognize. I go far away from that inner presence. Even though it is there, I will not be able to recognize. So all of us are in certain state where we are not able to recognize that inner presence because we still carry that lower self. If we are not able to recognize, we are still in an ignorant stage, much more ignorant stage. If we recognize, we are better off. From there we can start different practices. So the first thing we have to understand is we ourselves are responsible to lift our attention and mind and gain control over this lower self. To gain this control, I myself am responsible. Guru, Shastra can guide us how to do it, but I have to do it. Only when I do it, I will experience that higher state of consciousness or higher mind. If I don't do it at the mental or physical level, nothing will happen. Only the information will go and stay somewhere in our mind, like a memory, like a story. It will stay there. It will not be applicable. It will not be lifting. Majority of us experience this also. I am attending satsangs since so many years. Nothing is changing because the information goes inside but does not come out in the form of responses and actions. So if it does not happen in the present moment, then it will not be creating that influence of control over this lower nature. If it is not creating that influence of ability to control over my own lower nature, then I feel nothing is happening to me. Because same thing, same negativity, same emotions, same getting angry, same frustration, same arguments, every day same thing. So there is no change. Of course there will not be any change because there is no practice. These chitta vrittis which are there in our mind are there in our mind always, in all states of our mind, except in the deep sleep. Except in the deep sleep, these vrittis are always rising in my mind. These are called chitta vrittis. Chitta means mind, vritti means a modification. Chitta vritti means a mind modification. Yesterday we have seen that mind has a special property called as this subtle. It can take any shape. So this mind takes the shape of object. Whatever you imagine, mind is taking that shape. Right now I am imagining a blue rose, for example. That shape the mind has taken. If I am looking at something here, that shape the mind takes. Therefore I am able to see all this. So whatever senses give as a perception, the mind modifies itself into that. When mind modifies itself into that shape, I recognize. We have to understand this because when I feel angry, the mind is taking the shape of that anger. Mind modifies itself into anger. So when I call somebody stupid, you are a stupid, you are an idiot, my mind takes this form of you are idiot. So I become idiot first, then others. I take that shape of that idiot, meaning when I have to call that idiot, that what idiot means, my mind has to take shape. I have to know what it is. So my mind takes that shape before it expresses outside. So I become that which I am expressing. Before expressing, I become that. So if I am shouting, before that, my mind becomes angry. So that anger, it takes that shape, and I suffer the anger before I want to inflict the anger upon others. My intention when I express anger is that others should be under my control, is it not? When I shout, why am I shouting? I am trying to control others. Otherwise, why I will shout? So I want to express the anger and make the other person suffer for that. But what happens is, we think by suffering, when I express that anger, others will suffer. When others suffer, because they don't like to suffer, they will listen to me. That is my understanding. That is why I express my anger. Otherwise, why I have to express the anger? So then what happens is, before I express my anger, I suffer. Others suffer or not, we don't know. That is out of my hand, because it is up to them. When I shout, they may take light also. They may ignore us. So that is not in our control. Sometimes they suffer, sometimes they ignore. If they are used to our shouting, they will completely ignore. That is for sure. They will completely don't bother. The more we shout, the more they will develop that defense of shouting. Some kids know this. The parents shout and shout and shout. They are immune to shouting. Such kids, they can go anywhere, because anybody shouts, nothing will happen to them. The positive out of all that. But the one who is shouting, they will suffer. Certainly suffer, because that emotion is being experienced in the mind. Therefore, they will suffer. It is said in our body-mind scientific research that any negative emotion which is held in the mind for a few moments, that is enough. That immediately that acupuncture, that energy which is there in the mind, in the whole body, goes down, and it releases certain enzymes, certain toxins that are released in the body, which are very harmful for the body, because of this negative emotion which I hold in the mind. So I suffer first, then others will suffer. Instead of that, let us take up the charge of our own mind and see what we can do about it. Instead of expressing this negativity, let us have a control over this negativity before its expression. This is called as niyantrana. This is called as discipline. This is called as disciplining the lower self, disciplining the negative self which we are carrying within. We will see tomorrow. Is this meditation today or okay? We will try a small meditation technique, maybe not more than 10 minutes, and the questions we can have now if you want, like 1 or 2 questions we can have, and then we can go for meditation. Yes. The best way is to enjoy what you're doing, meaning when you're doing something, completely focus. There are certain techniques by which we can bring the mind into the present moment. For example, the one which we will see in a moment is one technique. Actually, it brings the mind into the present moment. The moment we are aware of our breath or any other bodily rhythm. For example, we are walking. Our mind is placed on the walking. It comes into the present. So we can have this kind of techniques which assist the mind to become in the present moment. Breath awareness, body awareness, all this will bring the mind into the present moment. Also, the interest in the activity, by not judging the activity as a good thing or a bad thing. For example, we are walking. We think, what is there in the walking? There is nothing. Let me think about which is important in my life and not this walking. We have certain kind of importances in which our mind is pulled into. So when we are walking, give importance for walking. think that that is also an important activity. So giving importance to whatever you are doing will bring the mind into the present moment. Have the significance. Do not consider any activity as less or high. Consider all activities are as equally important. Also, completely involve in it. Not thinking of other things. Meaning, doing one thing at a time. First thing first, having a priority in our life, and when we have picked the priority, only execute that one thing at a time. So when we are doing a programming, do not think about the other things. When you are doing programming, do programming. If you are watching TV, watch TV. Watching TV and thinking about the other thing is actually pulling mind in different directions. So when you are doing one thing, do one thing at a time. If your mind says, oh, what about that? Oh, what about this? You can say, wait, first thing first. The moment you decide this activity needs to be accomplished, give an auto suggestion yourself that only this thing I will be focusing right now, no other activity. So the mind becomes exclusive in doing a certain thing. This exclusivity we have to learn. Not that when you are only reading one sentence, you are not going to the next sentence. That is not exclusivity. Exclusivity means that you have picked a task, one action. Your mind is only revolving around that decision. That is total focus. Focus does not mean in one point. Focus means around the idea which you have decided. So cooking is a broad category. Now you are entirely focused on the cooking. Washing, entirely focused on the washing. When you are moving the knob, switching the knob, throwing the clothes in the machine, and then closing the door. When we do all that, put full entire attention. When we do practice such things, then we gain how to be in the present moment. We have to do different things, then it will help. Hope I have given few pointers. Any other question? Yes. If you are enjoying multitasking, it is fine. But if you feel that one thing is not justified because you are doing many things, then you have to think about it. I'm saying this because some people are very good in multitasking. So enjoy, for example, I am speaking, I am reading this. You can call it multitasking, right? I am moving my hand and I also talking to you. Is it multitasking? It is single pointed focus overall. Overall my point is to talk to you. So that I am fixed. That intention is fixed. Fixing that intention, I am doing all these various things. That way if you do, the multitasking is fine. But all these things which I am doing are only for one purpose, which is to give you an answer. Is it not? All my gestures, my movements, my reading, my thinking, all this is only for one purpose, to give you an answer. Is it not? Like that, if the purpose is fixed, then multitasking is fine. If the purpose is also many, I want to answer you, I want to answer him, I want to answer her, then it becomes split. You see what I'm saying? It's not the multitasking, it is the intention and the overall focus of the mind. It is not the tasks, it is the overall focus of the mind, where it is placed. That is the coming into the present, being in the present. We can do multitasking, all of us do it. When we are not able to justify each act in which, when we are doing multitasking, all those tasks are mixed in such a way that mind is split going here and there, then it is a problem. Then we have to address it. If mind is focused on all those simultaneously, we can, then it is not a problem. Hope I am able to give some kind of indication. Come on. It is fine, absolutely fine. That is why I said the multitasking by itself, by definition, is not wrong. It is the overall focus on which you decide before where it should be. What happens generally is I decide my mind to be in one direction. Compulsively, my mind is pulled in different directions. It does not go by my decision. It goes automatically. That unconscious pulls, that is the problem, because of which I myself will not be able to justify one thing in the proper manner. So I consciously have to decide and place my mind on this and make it flow for a certain period of time, which that also I have decided. Half an hour I wanted to do japa with walking. That is my decision. So I am walking and I am focusing on the japa. That was my decision. So when I do that, that is justified. If I thought I will walk and then I am doing japa, which also, if that also is a good decision which you wanted, then it is fine. It all depends on what you want to accomplish. That is the main thing. Japa will only help you. That is your ultimate purpose. So it is a positive vasana. So even if it is coming unconsciously, it will help you. But if it is a negative thought which is pulling you, then that being in the present moment will not. If there are two positive things that are there and your overall intention is to accomplish both, then both will assist each other, both will be complementary to each other. So again, it is the overall focus and your intention where your mind has to go, knowing that that will take you for your own good. Any other question? Yes. Mm-hmm. The difference will be very clear when the joy is derived out of accomplishing something for the others' happiness. For example, you have a child. When that child becomes very happy, okay, in that also we may say it is because my child got happy. Yes, that also is possible. But there are certain actions, because it is uncommon in our daily life, it feels very difficult that the action is not an egoistic happiness. It is true. Initially, we have to struggle and come out of doing these actions without expectation. Then there will be, certainly there is a joy. For example, the best, probably the closest example is a painter. When he is painting and involved in the, or a musician, when he is totally immersed in doing that, there is a joy which is born because of the being present. There is a joy because of being present. There is a joy which arises because you have accomplished. Both are very different. When you are acting itself, there is a joy. When you are totally absorbed, you don't keep track of time. Everything is blocked, total absorption. You don't think about what will happen tomorrow or what happened in the past. You are totally in it. In that, there is a joy. We need to introspect, then you will know that that joy is not an egoistic joy. That is because of total concentration in the present. You don't keep track. The moment you get out of that absorption, suddenly you feel this joy has come. Then the ego will come. Ego will say, this joy which you got is nice. Ego will only say that. So even you don't remember that you are there. That type of joy. There is a very stark, clear difference. By being in the present and totally absorbed and involved in an action, there is a joy which will arise. Ego can later claim that it is that joy, ego's joy, but this joy is independent of the ego. And there is a joy when the result is accomplished. For example, somebody said, you are a great person. You have accomplished a great one. Then something happens inside. That is egoistic joy. Oh, you are really great. Then some sensation, some pleasure happens. That joy is egoistic joy. It's a different. When you introspect, you will know. This comparison between joys, you will know when you keep on introspecting. It is a subjective, very subjective. There is a stark and qualitative difference. We will see tomorrow. Actually, you asked the qualitative difference, right? Tomorrow we will see the qualitative difference because of the influence of gunas. There are qualitatively, these joys are also very different. The egoistic joys which we generally talk about are rajasic. We will see that tomorrow, the mental modes and all that. Actually speaking, all the joys rise independent of the ego. But when it claims for its own self-serving, feeling that I am something, those kind of joys are egoistic joys. The feelings which are interpreted our mind by saying, I am something, I have gained something, there is something great, like that. Self-serving, meaning the ego serves itself, such joys are egoistic joys. Maybe by tomorrow's comparison, it becomes a little more clear. Initially, all egoistic only. But when we start doing these actions without expectations, without focusing on specific result, then another type of joy will start inside. You will feel somehow peaceful. You feel that there are no agitations in your mind. Peaceful. Out of that peace, there is a subtle joy. Out of that peace and lack of that frustration and disturbance, that type of joy. When we do it, we will know. There is no comparison between. It has to be in the experience. So in order for you to compare different experiences, you have to experience it. Any other question? Yes.
Could you elaborate on the concept of mind as created three factions? Sound like lower mind and higher mind. The mind itself is the faction, it's looking at watching the lower mind, it's more negative intensities.
Mm-hmm.
Want to transcend to the higher mind. So how would mind divide itself into three fragments and observe each other and try to become both fragments?
The mind is already split that way. What you're saying is that is the condition right now. So the ability to observe is lost when you identify with one portion of the mind. For example, when you ask this question, that's when you observed. If you do not observe, then you are identified with a higher mind or a lower mind. This observation is also an ability. It is lost when this observer gets identified with one of the portions of the mind, which are the thoughts. It will be a lower thought or a higher thought. So if you are not observing, then it is not there. For example, in the sleep, in the deep sleep, are you observing? No. You are taken over by one type of guna. We will see tomorrow. You are taken over by that. So when you are taken over, even this observing capability is lost. You are right. That also is one of the functioning, and it is also one of the capabilities of the mind. It is one of the faculties. Maybe you can use the word faculty. It is like you make a decision. You have choices, you make a decision. Decision is also a faculty, which is called as the intellect. Like that, this also is an observer. Maybe you can call that also as an intellect. The intellect can decide, intellect can observe. When you are not observing, not deciding, and lost in one thought, then intellect is temporarily suspended. It is there, but suspended. So the more you awaken this faculty of observation, the more informed your decisions will be. How can, your question is why it is like this?
My question is, like, how can mind, what would motivate the mind to divide itself into three parts?
It's not dividing itself. It is, all these are faculties, all these are already there in the mind. We are classifying them. All these are already there. In the creation, it is there. This higher is there, this lower is there, this observing faculty. This observing faculty is not in animals, by the way. Only in human beings, because of their evolution, this observing and decisive decision-making faculty.
Higher mind, is that Atman, or is that beyond realm of
The higher mind.
higher mind? Is that Atman?
Yes, when it is said that when there are no thoughts, higher or lower, then that mind itself becomes a Atma. We will see that tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow's lecture will answer most of your questions, I feel, and yours as well, because we will see the mental modes of mind, how these different modes influence this mind, and what is that highest state. So we'll see that. Okay, can we still have a meditation, or tomorrow or day after? If some people want day after, tomorrow only, then tomorrow is fine. Anytime it's fine. If you still want to have it, we can have it. Okay, both days also we can. Depending on how much we have time after justifying the subject. It's your decision now. Okay, no problem. Hari. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरिः ॐ. हरि